does anybody else want to talk about their game and how closely related this is to the theme?
I guess I can go to keep the flow going. So my game is about, I guess, the main character just finding themselves. So I'm kind of, I guess, like art direction wise, I'm thinking kind of like, I guess, a little bit toned down, like Alice in Wonderland-esque kind of deal. How close it is to the theme, I guess, like a 6 or a 7. I don't know. But barely anything works because I'm using a beta version of 2021 Unity, and I've been really distracted by a bunch of new features. So,
At least you're
like,
learning.
yeah, like 2D spline is very fun. It's very, very fun.
Is that like kind of like puppeteering, like sprites? That's what I
Um,
picture.
I mean, I've been personally using it more for like environment right now, because I haven't drawn any sprites because I've decided to just make sure things can kind of work first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I closed Unity like a little bit ago because I'm technically at work. Um, but I can try and like shoot it back up real quick and see if I can. Okay, yep, there it is. Let's see. Screen share Unity. So like yeah, I've been really distracted with things like this. So like this is like one of the temporary scenes I made, and you can edit the spline kind of just like, and it does custom like hitboxes with the spline.
Oh wow, that's really neat.
Yeah, and you can just keep adding more and more.
It's a whale.
Yeah, let's make it a whale.
Great.
Uh, yeah, so I've been really messing around with like this to see what I can do with it. Like, it's a really bad. There we go. There we go. Now it's a whale. Perfect.
I like it.
It's a really bad whale, but
It looks like the snack that smiles back.
there we go.
Right.
Perfect.
Shut up, phone.
Yeah, and like just letting it drop. Womp. So like all the custom hitbox works and everything, which is really nice. Because I feel like Unity really needed custom 2D hitboxes for a very long time.
Yeah, no, that seems really big. I guess if nobody else has anything to say right now, we could just start the workshop and then come back to this. If that's
Let me
alright.
just end this stream.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I wasn't asking. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Alright, well.
Well, I think to wrap this up, for those who want to stay for the art club presentation, I welcome you to it. It will be about pixel art. For those of you who want to get back to working, then I let you go. We will let you go.
Alright, the floor is all yours.
Hello, everybody. My name is Malachi. I'm here. Sort of doing this as a collaboration with the art club. So that's like the club that I'm here with. And yeah, so I'm running a workshop on pixel art, and specifically a program which I cannot pronounce the name of. Actually, let me figure out how to share my screen with this right now. Wait, actually, I can stream it directly, I think. Can you all see this?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I don't know if this is like Asprite or Asprite or I have no clue.
I think it's just Asprite.
Asprite? Maybe.
That's what I know. Unless we've
Yeah.
been wrong for years.
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
Asprite, but this isn't my expertise.
Okay. So anyway, keeping on track. So the reason that I'm using this program specifically, there are a couple reasons. First of all, I think it's very nice. It's like very user friendly. It's pretty to look at. You compare this to like your like sort of traditional art program software, like software. like Photoshop with had just like a bajillion buttons like in every corner of your screen. This gives you the tools you need. It puts them in like reasonable places. It's very, very like easy to understand, which is why I think it works. Hopefully, will work well for an hour and a half workshop. It also has just lots and lots of really helpful features for pixel art, which I'll get to in a moment. And the final thing actually is that Asprite, which I guess is what I'll stick to from the rest of the presentation, is so it costs, and sort of doing imaginary quotation marks here, it costs I think $20 or $30, but not really. So what happened is that Asprite was originally developed under an open source license. And in 2016, when like 3 of the main people who were working on it decided that they wanted to start like monetizing this really useful product they were developing, they realized they would either have to rewrite basically the entire thing like from scratch, or they wouldn't be able to charge money for like the code that had been developed through this open source project, because again, the license didn't allow anyone to monetize it. So what they ended up doing basically is they made it so that you pay for the installer. You don't pay for the software itself. You only pay for the installer. But legally, the source they still have to make the source code available. So if you know how to if you have experience building like software, like especially open source like projects, you can just go out, look up. You can easily find like the GitHub page for Asprite and build it yourself, which is actually what I did. And it stays up to date just like the normal like paid version. There's nothing like there's like I'm trying to make it clear that this is like absolutely 100%. I've confirmed this to be legal. I'm not telling you to pirate anything here. This is what the license says they have to provide. And since hopefully everyone participating in the game jam, I think probably either is or is working closely with somebody who's at least decent with computers, you probably can like find someone who can help you with this installation process. I was originally thinking about showing it here, but it's probably a little too long than I would like to spend on it here, especially if like people have technical issues. So unfortunately, I'm going to leave that part out of this
Okay.
presentation.
Were there any videos, like video tutorials you could link? I mean, you don't have to
Video
right
tutorials
now.
I can.
Okay.
I think that there are. I believe, if I remember correctly, there are plenty of video tutorials.
Okay.
The question is, do they work? So when I set up Asprite myself, which was this past summer, I did build it myself. I was able to figure out. I think it took me like 40-ish minutes. So again, it definitely was not bad. It's just like, especially like it's saving me like $30 or something. But it's too long for this presentation, if you see what I mean.
Right. Yeah. And if you could just look it up, then why even bother?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, like a lot of the tutorials you see online are not great, but I mean, and also there are plenty of people on YouTube who have just general Asprite tutorials who are a lot better at pixel art than I am. Like they're like, and I actually highly recommend looking at their stuff if you find this stuff interesting. I can definitely link some of those as well. Is there like a voice chat text channel that I can post links in?
Oh yeah, we have a link channel.
Yes, GGJ links.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, actually, so remind me like sort of later on. Actually, I'll put some of those like YouTube channels I recommend in there because yeah,
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. But before we get to any of that stuff, I just want to start by just quickly open up a brand new Asprite thing. You can see that Asprite, being designed for pixel art, has recommended like page sizes that are a lot smaller than what you'd see elsewhere. So 70 by 30 is very wide. I'm actually going to make this probably a little smaller. I might go with 50-30. Actually, I'll go with 50-50. Yeah. Okay. So, and okay, so let me just quickly choose a color that's not pure black for the background right now. All right, and so to start off, you can hopefully see everything that's on my screen at the moment. My stream preview is paused, so I can't actually tell, but I trust Discord enough. So on my screen, there are a bunch of things. So the first area that I want to look at is over on the right-hand side here. We have basically our tool palette. And like I said before, Asprite, very user-friendly. You don't have to worry about a ton of different tools because for pixel art, you only need a couple tools. So the main ones here are, so first of all, our pencil tool, which I can get to by either clicking on the button or hitting B on my keyboard. And there's also the spray tool, which I have never used ever. The spray tool is to make, like, I guess, larger, slightly textured patches of stuff. If you want to do pixel art that looks a little bit more like traditional art, but that's never been something that I've been interested in doing. But the pencil tool in general works exactly like you expect it. You like just click on an area, you draw pixels there. Very straightforward. Next up, we have the eraser tool. The eraser tool works with layers, which I'll explain in a moment. But so let me just quickly make a new layer first, because the eraser tool only works if you have multiple layers. So new layer here. Actually, I can just do control. Shift. I'm confused. Whatever. Layer. So yeah, layer one. And so now, if I take my pencil tool and draw a couple things, and then I hit my eraser tool, I should be able. Yeah, I can erase them all. All right. B and E, very self-explanatory. The reason pencil is B, by the way, is just because most drawing software that people coming into Asprite might have experience with use B for brush, and the pencil tool is basically our brush tool. So that's why the shortcut is B. Eyedropper tool, very useful if you have like a lot of colors on your screen that you want to like select one of them that you've used before, which is actually a big part of like pixel art in general. Again, I'll get to it in a little while. So I can hit I to switch to the eyedropper tool, and then when I hit I, you can see now that I have this color selected. Actually, you could better see it down here. This is my foreground color. And then if I wanted to go back, I would just click up here. Now you can see my color down here is set to black again. So, and then one more time, just to show you, I have my eyedropper tool selected. I just click anywhere on the screen with the color I want, and I now have that color selected. This means that if I were to now use my brush tool, well, if I tried to draw something, you wouldn't be able to see anything because it's the same color as the background. But if I instead have something like this, and then I take my eyedropper tool, select this color, go back to my brush, I'm now drawing with the color I selected. Okay. So alternatively, instead of hitting I, and this is actually what I do most of the time, there is in sort of temporary eyedropper tool. So while I have the brush selected, if you hit Alt and hold Alt, as long as you're holding Alt, you'll have the eyedropper tool. So now while I'm holding Alt, I can select a color. I'm release Alt. I'm back to like my brush tool to draw again. This is pretty common in most drawing software. So it's just something that like I think is worth remembering that Asprite has, because it's probably more convenient than hitting I all the time. And okay, so I'm not going to go too much in depth into the rest of these shortcuts because it just says what they are over here. The eyedropper tool is the main one that I wanted to go over. Zoom tool, I mean, I think should hopefully be explanatory. I can drag like to one side to zoom in, other side to zoom out. This is my move tool. Oh yeah, so my move tool, if I have like, again, my multiple layers and I draw something on one layer, oops, I have wrong color selected. Move it. Move tool is fairly useful to get to in a moment. Paint bucket tool, I think it fills an area. If you've used MS Paint, you know what that does. Line tool, it draws a line. This I can make. I have a bunch of shapes I can use. Contour tool, I don't know what it does. I think it has. Oh, okay. It just autofills an area. That's right. Not one I use very often. and then blur tool, which if I have like a bunch of different colors, I can sort of like get colors in between them that are sort of like blur the two together, basically. All right. Most of these tools I don't use very often. It basically always just comes down to like brush, eraser, and then these selection and move tools, and occasionally paint bucket. So with that out of the way, oh yeah, and then I was also going to explain layers. Layers, if I draw something on one layer, that thing is separate from things on other layers. So if I then make another layer, just something in there, this is really useful because I can now hide one layer or hide the other layer. I can hide the background if I wanted to. I can hide both layers. And if I erase something on one layer, I don't have to worry about like erasing the layer behind it. So yeah, definitely recommend getting used to working with layers as much as possible. All right. What else? Should quickly delete this layer. Okay. So one of the nicest things about Asprite, which I don't know if I'll have time to demo. I'm gonna try to demo like using this stuff to and sort of my thought process as I make like an example sprite, but I don't know if I'll have time to do this part. Is that Asprite has this really useful built-in animation feature. So it lets you go through like basically make new frames that you can create like very easily create loops. The preview window over here will actually show you your sprite going through the animation loop as you're working. So I can't really quickly demo that, but like you'd be able to see your sprite in motion over in the preview window, even while like you're not cycling through the frames yourself. It just like automatically shows the loop over here, which is really nice. Can you see this preview window that I'm dragging around right now? Actually, I'm curious.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure because I'm only streaming a sprite, and I wasn't sure if this was treated as a separate window
Yeah,
or not.
sometimes it does that. I know Unity, Ethan was showing off like a couple minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. Anyway, go on.
Okay. So with this all out of the way, gonna just probably go right to demoing how sort of an example thought process behind making like just stuff that I would use in a game. So I think that the number one most important thing to start with when you're doing sprite design is to think about the environment before you think about anything else. So I think what I'm going to try demoing here, I sort of had the idea just now when people were talking about ghosts and boxes. I'm going to try to just, like do like a sort of like ghost character as a sprite. So before I even start working on him, though, I want to quickly open up sort of as reference something that I've worked on in the past, which is a tile set for some like dungeon like tiles that I could use in a game. So I would use like this is something that I made like a month or two ago, which is just like it's a complete tile set so that I could sort of paint out like the walls of like a dungeon level in an RPG of some sort. So I'm just going to use this for today as a reference for what my background should look like as I make the ghost. And the reason that's so important is I don't know if you like I'll remember that like what color is the dress thing from like 4 or 5 years ago. But if you remember, like the whole reason that was such a big like thing was because well, basically the science of it all boiled down to like different colors or the same color looking very different depending on the situation, like the what's around that color. And I can quickly demo that here with my rectangle tool. If I take, let's say, a red, like a big old red rectangle, and then I make a, actually, I'll use yellow instead of red. Make one red rectangle, make one blue rectangle. The same color. You see how much brighter this orange looks than this orange? The same color can end up looking wildly different depending on what you put around that color. And so that's why it's really important that you sort of have an, and this is something that I think that a lot of people get tripped up on. It's not just like pixel art stuff. It's sort of like character, whether it's character design art, really anything that involves like something that you're going to put into an environment later, you have to keep the environment in mind, even though it's not like what you're working on in the moment, if that makes sense. So that's definitely my like first advice to everybody. So, and that's why I brought this up. So with this up, what I'm going to actually do is, can I copy this color here and bring it over here? Yes, I can. Good. So I'm actually going to fill my background with the sort of like, I guess what I would call like the background color from the like tile set that I designed before. And so now once my ghost is in game, even if he's not like on top of exactly this color, like I'll probably have floor tiles and stuff, he'll be sitting on top of colors that were designed to go with this color. And because the ghost is also designed to go with this color, it'll all end up like working out. So that's sort of my step one here. Step two, of course, is I want to just make a friendly ghost. So I want my ghost to look vaguely human. So, oh, that's the wrong tool. So sort of general layout for, I guess, human creatures would be like a sort of rounded head shape. I think I need this. Is that right? That's fine. So it's a little taller than it is wide, which is good. And let's see. So normally a human body would like just sort of come down like in this area. But my ghost I want to be a little different. So he'll probably come out more like this, right? And so I guess I can. And so while I'm doing this, what I want to talk about is sort of philosophy, like sort of thinking about why you're using pixel art in the first place. I think the main reason that pixel art is so common or so prevalent in like game design these days is because like it's easier to be representational with what you're doing. So if I wanted to like draw a chair with like pencil and paper, I have to worry about like what's the right line, what's like the perfect line to draw for like this part of the chair and this part of the chair. But with pixel art, like the everything like lines up by itself. So like drawing like this straight line like takes no effort whatsoever. And even if I wanted to, I could just manually go through and like place each pixel for like particularly complicated like stuff. So it takes like a lot of the challenge out of that part. Instead, what the challenge is now is like using this very limited grid to show whatever complex shape that I want to show. But for some reason, I think that a lot of people, especially people who don't have a lot of experience doing art, like in general, and even those that do, find it a lot easier to make stuff that looks correct in this grid when like they're given this grid than it is to do the same thing when it's just like freeform lines everywhere. And there are probably some interesting theories as to why that might be, but I'm not going to speculate too much on that here. I also just realized that I filled the layer with my background color, which is not what I wanted to do. So where that I can, I want the like sort of ghost design to be separate from this all. So I'm actually going to just go back and make a new layer for the ghost part. And actually, try using, oops, I have to select. That is way too thick. Right, so my thickness is up here, that's right. The circle tool again, so like this. Let's try something like this. I wasn't really happy with the shape I had going before. And instead of doing that thing that was way backwards, so aside from the stuff though that I was talking about just now, pixel art really is just like the same idea as normal art most of the time. And so that means that like things that you might know or maybe don't know about, like, or maybe I guess will learn about like art in general are apply perfectly well to pixel art. So, for example, knowing that the humans have a sort of torso that bends in like this, what I think I'm going to do is make a sort of wispy thing like this. I think I like this better as my ghost. Okay. And then from here, so then I guess I can make some eyes. Okay, that looks decent as it goes, I think. So now that I have a sort of like basic outline, this is definitely subject to change. I guess my next step would be to start figuring out like what color I want this guy to be. So I think it's always worth starting out with like sort of basic blocks of color in areas, and then working in more detail. So for example, when I was doing these like walls over here, the way I did my design was I would start with like, you can actually even see down here in the corner, I just chose a bunch of simple colors to make sort of like a palette. And then I would choose like a shadow color for one area and like a light color for another area. And then I'd go in and add more of these specific details and add more of these colors that you see up here. But most of the work and like the way you get it to all line up in the end is by starting out with like the basic stuff, basic shapes. So for friendly ghost over here, or maybe I'd say he's a friendly ghost, I don't actually know. Very well might not be friendly, depending on what type of game you're making. I need a good color for him. So over here, I was mainly going with things that were on like the bluish side of things, or cyans, all the way down to purple, I think, for no, just more bluish for my darker colors. I'm probably going to stick with so when I say I'm going to stick with that, I don't mean that I'm going to only choose blues for the ghost, but whatever color I want the ghost to be, I'm going to still move it closer to blue. So for example, if I wanted my ghost to be yellow, or to look yellow, then I'd want to drag this color over a little bit to green. Wait, let me not choose the darkest one possible. I think this should be it. It's a little too green probably, so. Right, and so this looks okay. If I were, actually, let me turn up saturation just a little bit. So that looks more yellow now. If I were to actually go over to a real yellow, use this, I think this looks slightly orangish, because the background is a little on the bluer side, but it's very subtle. So I probably would stick with saying more like, well, I'm probably not going to go with yellow anyway, so it doesn't matter. But that's sort of like what I'm thinking about right now. What I actually probably want for this ghost, though, is definitely not such a bright color. Probably want something a little more on the gray side. So to like fit like the sort of faded, dark, damp atmosphere I have going here. Probably want something a little more greenish as well. So maybe a color down around here-ish. I think that looks somewhere reasonable. Maybe a little lower still. Yeah. Okay. So from here, I guess the next thing to think about would be sort of lighting. So our ghost already sort of looks like ghastly and spectral, which is like a good start. But so what am I trying to get at here? What I want to think about now is because I don't want him to be like all this like one flat color. So I need to figure out, okay, what can I do to like make him like look more lively? How can I make him feel like he's like an actual or tangible is the wrong word here. Uh, how can I make him look like he's something that like would be like interactable with like in the world around like my character in the game. And so the main thing that I need to do at this point is try to like add more interest to this that goes to the character. So some things that I could do, I could always like add more detail to his shape with like more lines and stuff. What I'm going to do first though is probably give him some areas where he looks like he's a little like on the more transparent side, and like where it looks like maybe like there's some light coming like from inside of him or something. It's like magical stuff. So to get that sort of a feel, I would probably want to first choose some other color. And actually, this is where I'm going to start making, make one more layer for like a little palette. So this is my like goes to sort of I guess we call it like skin color. And let's say I wanted a brighter green for his like magical energy. So, and actually I'd probably want this to be brighter. So now what I want to do is I want to find stuff in between these two colors. So sort of way I would do that is if I look at like where my little color is selected over here, I can flip between the two. So, okay, so I know my line looks like this, and then going back, flipping between the two, I'm now looking for where I am on the hue. So between like these very slight gap between these two. So if I wanted to go slightly from one step from here to here, what I would do is I would just move slightly in the direction and slightly in the direction there, and not forget to switch to my paint tool for like the 1 millionth time. Right, and I can do this a couple times to get closer. Should probably want this to be a little further up in this direction. That gives me a nice like gradient between the two. Okay, and then so from here, now I can use these colors. So I'd probably want to identify some areas that I like want to have this sort of lighting feel. So maybe like sort of a big patch on his chest area would be nice. So I'll start with like just taking this tone, or sorry, this color right here, and just marking out one area with that. And I want somewhere on his head. It would probably make sense if it's somewhere close to the center too, because on the side, if you think about like how his like sort of like outer surface would wrap around like, because I'm imagining this glow from coming like inside of him. So there's like less ghost gas between, you know, like here. Okay, hopefully that made some sense. If any of this doesn't make sense, by the way, like you guys are all muted. You can always like feel free to unmute and say like, hey, Mal, okay, like this sucks. Like, explain this better, please. Because
Oh, I'm following along pretty well. I mean, well, following your explanation, not actually following along, but yeah, no, you're doing a good job.
all right, thank you. Okay, so and then from here, I'm just going to choose more of these colors. So now with this brighter color, I want to start thinking about like maybe more detailed sections rather than, and also this is also where I'm going to start thinking about like the overall look of like the lighting for this guy, I guess, or sort of like I'm starting to try to visualize in my head what the final look for this is going to be. So for example, I probably don't want to mark an area that's a super light right here directly in the center, even though it's the most accurate, because his eye is right here. And I don't know, like having like the dark like black next to the brightest section, I think doesn't look great. So I'm going to actually move this dark area slightly over like this. And then I can choose this. And I don't even know if I'm going to go with, shit, might add one pixel back right there. Okay. maybe a little more over here. Yeah, and I will keep fiddling around with this for basically as much time as I have, like if I'm actually doing stuff. I don't know about that. And then yeah, similar thing down here on the body. So from here, I'm kind of just adding colors every which way until I get something that looks the way I want it to. And that could take a long time. Sometimes I'm happy with it like right off the bat. I'm sort of noticing here that I kind of liked how it was a little darker on the backside before. So I think I'm going to add a little bit of that back in here, even though I just got rid of it. And I just keep trying things out basically until I find something that's like roughly where I want it. I'm making his like lighting this up a little bit more. And then press this over. Let's see. Selected. Ooh, actually, I kind of like how it looks when he's like underlow like this. I might go with this a bit more. Actually, I kind of do want to get hopefully into the animation side of things a little bit here. So yeah, I'll leave it, I think, probably at this for now. I kind of like how this ended up. Actually, can I don't know if I can view, kind of see if there's a way, a really nice trick that I like doing when I'm working in like sort of more normal digital art for like Photoshop and stuff is to flip the canvas constantly. I don't know if Asprite lets you do that though. Might not. Well, I don't know how to do it off the top of my head, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking for that option. Okay, so yeah, so I guess, what would you guys rather that I go over? Like, would it be better if I like went through like thought process of making like different types of objects, or would you rather see like the animation stuff?
I'd like to see animation personally.
Yeah, same here.
Same.
Okay. So I just have to get there then. What I'm going to do is make a new frame. And so you can see down here in my animation area, I now have gone over like one frame. At one point, I knew what these like white and dark circles meant. I think the white circles mean like it's like what I have selected. I believe that's what they're indicating to me. I think there's like other things that I can do to these circles, but I'm not too worried about that. Basically, yeah, I now have frame 1 and I have frame 2, and for now they are identical. So what I'm going to start off by doing is actually going back and hiding. Well, not that later. So hiding my set of details, because again, I always like to start with my basic shapes. What on earth tool did I have selected right now? Oh, I have the wrong layer selected, that's why. So the reason it was like giving me a sort of like stop sign was because I was trying to edit a layer that's hidden. You can tell that layer 3 is currently hidden because like the eye is closed next to it. Okay. And so what I want to do here is come up with a shape that's probably close to the shape. I think what I want to do is I'm trying to quickly picture how I want his like little tail here to move. I don't want it to move too much, most likely. I think what I'm going to do is have sort of it form like a circular motion like this. So like it might be clear what I mean in a moment, but basically they'll sort of like protrude out here while contracting in this way continuously. So to get there, what I'm going to start by doing is maybe taking a little bit off of this and actually making his tail a little like, I guess, thicker. I might have to end up going back and putting frames in between at some point because this might be like, I don't really have like too much of a sense of how much of a transition is going to be for like the first frame, but we'll get there when we come to it. So, okay, I guess then we go on to the next frame. It's the wrong button. No. Keep going with like the sort of plan that I showed before. So tail's now going to come up a little more this way. Keep going with this until I sort of get back to the point I was at before. So now is going to continue the circle sort of down now a little bit. So yeah, this and none of these shapes are final at all. They're almost certainly going to look like not right at all at first, and that's I think just a natural part of how this stuff ends up happening for the most part. So I don't know, but normally when I'm working with digital art, I love hotkey. I use hotkeys for literally every action I do. And unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the Asprite hotkeys as much because it's been like a couple months since I've used this program. So I am as brush tool selected. Yeah, so I am like hitting the wrong button every single time I do anything. I hope it's not too terribly awkward. Okay, so now what I believe I should be able to do is if I go to frame, would you play animation? No, that doesn't what I want to do. Can I do this? There we are. All right, so yeah, this is definitely faster than I want, although I might be able to fix that just, I think there's like setting to fix that somewhere. Preferences. Well, it doesn't really matter too much. What I want to do to actually fix this, because I would rather not have like choppier. If I just slow down like the speed at which I cycle frames, it's going to look choppier and choppier. So the better solution is just to add more between frames. And also, I noticed that, like especially, so this looks fine. Looks fine. This should work kind of the other way I'm thinking. Or maybe just not up so much. And then lashes comes back. Yeah. Yeah. So sorry for these like sort of awkward pauses. I'm trying to think about what I want to do to make this tail look a little nicer. So, well, first of all, I know I need more food from, so let me just quickly open. And I have to select the way that's actually visible. That's not as good as I thought. Actually, what I can do is I can actually show onion skin. So this doesn't work so well because of this layer. Now it looks a little better. All right, so onion skin actually shows me like my next layer at sort of as like the preview image below. So I can now, now that I need to make between skins, I am constantly hitting, by the way, in case you're wondering what like this menu that keeps popping up is, I keep hitting a P instead of B because I've been working with Clip Studio Paint recently for like, drawing stuff, and Clip Studio Paint uses P for pencil instead of B for brush. So I keep wanting to hit the wrong key. All right, so this should get better in between. So it is a little better. I still am not huge of the fact. See, right now my issue is that this sort of curves down. Well, this one has been curving up so far. So probably what I need to do is get it already flattened out here, so that then I can, and then maybe this up a little more. Maybe. Yeah. And so as it pulls in, I think what I want is have this all be like, yeah, it's a little better. So I'm always trying to think about like between frames, which way are things curving? Because like the curves usually in art tell us like which way things are moving. And so if things are moving in a way that doesn't match like the curves that are going on, it looks like it just looks bad. I don't think it's like any other way to put it. It just like looks off. Basically what happens is that like in real life, like when we move like say our arms to do something, like if you just try like sort of like throwing out your like arm in front of you, you'll see that like your arm sort of follows a curve, and that curve points in the direction it's moving. It's just like kind of, I don't know, it might be like partially for like aerodynamics or something. I don't know why like things like are just like that in general, but they are. There's like a sort of flow that like follows the motion of what we're like of like any action we take, and so our brains are just like hardwired to expect everything to follow that sort of rule. So hopefully this will end up. So yeah, so now I think I want, I was happy with how it's looking a bit more now. So try this a bit more. And then in the next frame, the whole thing comes down, but I probably don't want to come so far down. All right, so now let me try playing. Yeah, so that looks a little better, I think. Yeah. All right. And so obviously this is like only one part of the ghost. And what I would normally then also do is, well, first of all, I would probably normally have like nearly double this many frames because I still think his thing is moving too fast, like way too fast. He's like, maybe this would be good if like the ghosts were like running at a player, but like it just doesn't feel like he's like haunting an area. It feels more like he's like, like it doesn't have a sort of like spooky atmosphere. It feels like it feels threatening for a different reason than like what a ghost like I think normally would go with would want. Let me re-put this back on here so I can just see it again with this. Yeah, so it's definitely faster than I want, but hopefully you sort of get the idea of animation. Why is this circle now? Oh, because I've hidden it for one frame, I guess. I think that's. All right, so with the lighting again. Okay, so I have now managed to hide layer 3, but only on frame 2. Is that it? Okay, yeah. I have no idea what happened here, but I can't change. What? Copy? I have no idea. So yeah, so I do probably want to do some animation for like the lighting as well. And again, what I would normally also be doing is I would so the important motions I think would be to have not just his tail moving, first of all. I would want definitely want to then go back through the same process went through normally and definitely get like sort of this area of his body to wiggle a little bit with the tail. This area would probably I would want to have it like move up and down to sort of like mimic sort of breathing thing, even though ghosts may not have to breathe. Like I think it looks more lively in a like weird way. Like it might not be what I would do. Like it might not be something I would want if I were trying to like make like a realistic horror game. But if I'm making a realistic horror game, I'm not going to use like bright pixel like art like this anyway. So definitely for like this sort of style, I think livelier is better. So yeah, definitely I would have him like so have his like sort of upper chest and head bobbing up and down a little bit. This would all take more time to animate than I think I have right now. So I'm not sure if I should just choose some of that to do. Hmm. Oh yeah, also, just before I had an idea which that I think his eyes could just be. I'm not sure about that. Okay. Maybe this. And then I definitely want to make the area around them darker then. Yeah, that was nice. So what else I want to do here? So, and actually, I think I might do in general is just color up some of this line work. So instead of having it be like, you're not supposed to be there, yeah. Instead of just leaving it all like with the let me erase your tool selected again. I'm not sure about that. And that's just kind of how it goes. You know, it's like a lot of trial and error. I try something, I don't like it, I can hit Control Z a bunch. I was thinking about making the sort of bright area have sort of show the shine of like whatever bright light is on it on the line art instead of just leaving the line art black, but I didn't like how it looked so much. Okay. What else? What else? What else? So this, what I have right here. Oh, and I forgot I would have to then add the change I made on one layer to all the other layers. And in fact, not only would I need to do that, but probably what I also would want to do, and this is a nice, easy thing to animate. So like once I have, this is something that I would do like at the end after I animated everything else. Again, I've only animated like one part of this guy, so I normally wouldn't do this at this point, but again, I don't know if I have time to fully finish this guy. Once I'm at this point, I would actually just go ahead and I think I can copy all these frames. Oh, that only copies one frame. Uh, there should be a way to copy frames. Okay, there we go. Why is it hiding? I don't understand. Why would you do this? Excuse me. There's not two. Okay, I need to find out what these circles mean. Cell properties. Okay, we'll bring this for a moment again because I have apparently forgotten how some part of this works. Can I duplicate linked? No. Copy. I guess I can just manually copy each of them, but wait, actually, I think I know what a lot of this stuff means apparently. Okay. I am going to put this ghost to the side for now. I'm going to move to saying that's not animation because I don't want to like just sit here and try to figure something out right now. And I had sort of like planned to do sort of like get like sprite prop design as well, which actually I think I actually find that stuff a lot more fun anyway. Like so stuff that I would like put in a setting, like well, I guess I've did the walls before. Let's just come over here. And what I'm going to do, first of all, I can show you an example of what I would use stuff like the selection move tools for. I would copy and paste and move. Oh, I have to make a new layer. There. Paste, move. All right. So let's say I wanted to add some like torches to these walls. The reason I'm going with torches is because I want to like also show how like you can think about like lighting and stuff in like a situation like this. So the first thing I need to do again is figure out colors. So I need like a wooded color for my torch, and then I need like sort of area for the burny part of the torch, I guess. And I also want to think about like the sort of perspective of the whole thing. So my wall, I'm seeing it from like an angle, so that like I'm seeing mostly from the side, but the side is squashed a little bit, as you can see here. And then like I'm also seeing a bit of the top side. So I want to think about that little bit of foreshortening as well. And what this all comes down to, I guess, is so when I choose an area for my torch, which I guess I'm going to make yet another layer for, Shift N. So first want to find like a good brown for a wood color, which I usually like to go with something. And actually I should again remember that I have to move everything slightly over to the bluish side. So actually interestingly enough, from yellow to blue, I would need to go through gray. I wouldn't just like directly go through the color like this. So I'm gonna actually move this largely over to on the grayer side. And now I can see what this color looks like over here. Maybe, yeah, it's a little darker than I want. Try that. So, yeah, that kind of works. All right, so torch on the wall. Actually, I should probably have like a little. So it's gonna have definitely want like a little metal binding around it as well. Move it probably that sort of area, and then again, I want to be, even though I might not see it in the end product, I do want to show a little bit of this top area. A bit clear. All right, so we sort of get a sense of perspective on our torch. And seeing this perspective, I definitely think I want this darker. All right. So I can, using this as a like, starting base for my torch, now I'd want to go and like add on details and stuff. Oh, and I almost forgot that little red burny part. It could probably be like very dark red color. I'd like to think before. Okay. Definitely looks very dim at the moment, but we'll fix that up very shortly. And actually, I think okay. So, so what I wanted to just talk about though was like so thinking about how like lighting affects everything as well. So this torch is now going to suddenly have a very, very bright like flame on top of it. Right. So orangish. Right. And that flame is slightly transparent. So it's not just going to direct, I'm actually going to outline stuff first. Right, a little better. So I want this one to like look like it's like covering over the stuff instead of just like erasing it completely. So what I'm going to do is again, I want to choose stuff that's between these two colors. So remember my process for doing that. I'm looking down here between like there are like sort of two things that are moving. So I want to choose something that's in between both of them. By the way, this thing that I'm doing, like where I'm looking where stuff's moving down here, this only works if the colors are really close to each other on this bar. If the colors are far apart, like again, the example I was using before is yellow and blue, then between these two colors, like if I had like one here and one here, the I wouldn't choose something here. I'd actually just make it like basically gray. Things that are far apart here have to pass through gray to get to each other. If you think about like what your color wheel looks like, probably not the most important thing. Also, this color needs to be brighter. This color needs to be brighter. So that orange looked really bright before, but now there are brighter colors around. It's again looking a lot dimmer. Which is what I'm saying at the start of this is that your colors look wildly different depending on what's around them. If I want to not have it look so dim. And also, flames are of course not pure orange. I would want some like red in here. All right, so this is looking okay, but it's actually a second. Let me. I want some of this darker stuff back in here. All right. Okay, but it's like looking really spiky. It doesn't look like so smooth, or smooth is the wrong word. It like these kind of feel too much like points, you know. So what I want to do now actually is sort of erase parts of these. So the way I'm going to do that is by just trying to come up with something that's between these two colors. So like the color here and the color behind it. And I want something between those two so that I can make the flame feel like more transparent, basically. So again, because these two are so far apart, I'm basically like, it's going to be like an arc between the two that passes like through gray. So I guess halfway would be somewhere around like here-ish. And the color would be this one would be a lot darker probably. So it passes like this way, somewhere around here, here. All right. And I'm going to this sort of thing. So I'm saying between these guys. And eventually what I end up with is hopefully going to be something that like looks more like a flame that fits the setting. So this guy, do I even want this pixel? I'm not sure. If I need something there. Now it's kind of looking like a little messy to me. Over my preview, actually, I kind of like how it looks, but over here, I'm not so huge on it. So, and I think I can clean this up a little bit. So to clean this up, what I'm actually going to do is try to figure out how I can use fewer colors on this like thing overall. So right now, I think the problem is that it's just too much stuff happening all over it. So I'm going to use the colors I had found and just clean things up a bit.
Oh, hey, sorry, your mic really cut out.
Yeah, I'm being slightly silent myself because like this is stuff that I'm
Oh, okay,
not
sorry.
like saying that like I'm not used to doing. I want to make sure that like it ends up looking correct for the demo.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah, sorry if I'm being a little silent.
No,
And
that's fine.
no, actually, thank you for like speaking up, and giving me the reminder that I should keep talking as I'm going. I should explain what I'm thinking about. Okay, so I think I'm a bit happy with how this looks now. So it doesn't look bright though. It looks like red and like maybe a little fire, but it doesn't look like there's any like brightness to this. And so that's the final step. What I'm going to do now, actually, do I have like? Well, what I can definitely do is make a new layer. No, not new sprite, new layer. Did my tablet just freeze? There it goes. So, and what I'm going to do with this new layer, actually, so if I actually have to draw something first. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by taking this sort of like orange I've been using as the main color of my fire, creating a big old circle around here, moving it to sort of be centered on the thing. And now I'm going to drop the opacity of the layer. So to do that, I can right click down. I can double click it, got it. And I'm going to set to much lower, right? And then I might maybe erase part of this. I don't want it like leaking over the top like that, because this area is already covered in light. So like this sort of faint stuff might not affect it as much. And I'm going to add one more layer. Do a similar thing, but with an even brighter color this time. Let's go. So this. Doing this with layers here, but actually, one thing that is always worth thinking about is especially if you have like stuff that's like fancifully animated, like if you have like say like projectiles or something that are like you want to be glowy and stuff, what's probably easier to do is just save this like orange thing directly as a sprite with no transparency, and then actually code that into like whatever engine you're working with yourself, like the transparency part of it, so that it just like follows along with the sprite it's supposed to represent the glow for. There are a couple reasons you might want to do stuff like that, specifically so that you can have it like get brighter and dimmer easily without having to do like a lot of manual animation. So while I'm saying that, all right, and then finally I'm going to, this has made my flame too orange. I'm going to erase stuff from this middle area. All right.
Okay, we have about like 10 minutes left, so if we could like take some questions or wrap it up soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Do
Okay.
people have questions?
I wanted to ask like your experience, like how new you are to pixel art, or I guess something along those lines.
I've worked with it over the summer, so pixel art is definitely not the main thing that I use in general.
Okay.
But on the other hand, like it's not my first time. It's more that like it's been a while since I've used Asprite, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, from what you've shown, it looks very intuitive.
Yeah, definitely. Like by the time I was like working on this stuff, and I made all this stuff like I was gonna make like the whole like Unity game for it, and then I got like what always happens with all my projects. Like Unity has like these like brush prefab things that you can like code so
Right.
that like And so I just got like super invested into making like my brush prefab in Unity. Like so I had like custom like scripts so that like I wanted to be able to basically be able to like paint my level scene so that it would like wrap the walls around whatever I painted.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a fun project, but like it took like a week for me to figure out. By the time I was done, it's like I'm not like as interested in this anymore.
Yeah. Well, if you have the whole brush, I get. Could you transfer brushes between projects?
I was working. So I wanted to make like a sort of like level editor brush that just like drew walls without me having to like select the tile from the palette.
Right. Okay. All right. I got you now. That's really interesting. Does anybody else have any questions?
I have one about I have a sprite, but I don't really use it very often. But one thing I did hear about was like the pixel perfect functionality. I don't really understand when I should use it and when I shouldn't. Do you know?
Yeah. So the pixel perfect functionality. What that means. Let me just quickly make something new to demonstrate this. Why is it only making the new sprite so small? All right, I'll just go with white and black, I guess. So, but this is with pixel perfect turned off. If I turn it on when I draw, I'm trying to remember exactly what it does. So freehand trace algorithm. Was this the one that's supposed to? My answer is that at least for the simple stuff that I've done with Asprite, I haven't ever wanted to use pixel perfect. That's basically my answer. I would say that the I would give you, because again, like this stuff is not like my main area of expertise at all. Just from like working with like Photoshop, for instance. If I have a tool that I don't know what to like, that like I don't know like when to use it, usually it's not worth like going out of my way to like think about where to use it. If as long as I like know what it does, which in this case the pixel perfect, I don't know that I do. But as long as like I know what the tool does, there either I'll find a scenario to use or I won't, basically.
I always thought that it removed like the middle pixel. So like instead of having like multiple like 2 or 3 wide pixels when you're drawing a line, it's just one, right?
You're right. You're
I'll
right.
use
So,
that.
without it on, when I draw a curve, that's right. When I draw a curve, like I get like this, I get staircases like this, where it's like on top and below, and if I turn it on, I draw a curve. Now my staircases are just like this. Yeah, thank you. That's right.
Yeah. I use that for like line art, and then I go back in and like make the lines thicker if I need to.
You do that in like a drawing software in general, or
Yeah.
interesting.
Like the pencil tools, some like are only 1 pixel wide, so I use that for like line art, and then I go back in and then make it thicker if I need to.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your answer.
No problem.
All right. Any other questions?
Okay, well, if you don't have any questions, pretty much the workshop is done. Thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this.
No problem. Malka, if you have time, you could put the links right for the videos.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. I already forgot.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Stream first. Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Hopefully you walked away from this with something. Definitely had its rough patches, but oh, thought it went okay.
Yeah, no. I thought it went really well too. Yeah, don't worry about like the hangups or anything, because that's really valuable experience. Like you being able to pivot from something messing up.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely presented stuff before, so like it's like definitely not my first time messing up in front of people. More just like not worried about myself. I was I guess more just like want to make sure that you guys get something out of this.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
But hopefully you did. And they put these links. These links actually are very helpful. Actually, I'll probably just put the channel to the link to the channels in general, not just like the specific video. Okay, so